4 is the landscape plan overall, dated 01/25/2023, last revised 3/17/2023, prepared by HDR Architecture. Exhibit A5 is called North Enlargement and South Enlargement. It is dated January 1st, 25th, 2023, last revised 3/17/2023, also prepared by HDR Architecture. Exhibit A6 is the floor plan for the Workspace Bridge. It's entitled Mechanical Level A101, dated 3/09/23, last revised 3/21/23, also prepared by HDR Architecture. Exhibit A7 is the floor plan for the bridge level. It's entitled Floor Plan Bridge Level. It's sheet A102. It's dated March 9th, 2023, last revised March 21st, 2023, also prepared by HDR Architecture. Exhibit A8 is the exterior elevations. It's entitled Exterior Elevations Bridge. It's sheet A21, dated December 11th, 2018, last revised 3/21/23. And the final exhibit is a colorized version of the electric site lighting plan. That'll be Exhibit A9. It's sheet ES101. It is dated 1/25/23 and last revised 4/20/23. It is also prepared by HDR Architects. I'd also request that the board incorporate all of the submitted plans and application forms into your record. And with that, lawyers always talk too much. I would like to call my first witness, Mr. Christopher Cerati.
Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'll swear in all the witnesses at once.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Time.
Yep.
If they'll all raise their right hand, all those who will be testifying, as well as our two board professionals. Mr. Burgess, thank you. Do all of you swear to God or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you all.
I guess we'll need to qualify the witness in this case. Can you give us a little background?
Good evening. My name is Chris Cerati, Cirrotti. I'm an associate principal with the firm of Lang & Engineering. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey, have been so since 1994. I have a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from Rutgers University. I've been practicing as a licensed professional now for almost 30 years. Have been introduced and have been accepted as a witness before planning boards multiple occasions across the state of New Jersey. My license is in good standing, and my business is at our headquarters office in Parsippany, 300 Kimball Drive.
I offer Mr. Cerati is an expert in the field of civil engineering.
Great. Thank you. Any other board members have questions of Mr. Cerati? All right. Please proceed.
Thank you. I just want to make sure, I don't think we have anyone in the audience that wants to see the exhibit, so I've got it there. It's a little bit far, but I'll try to work with it from here. I do have a pointer, so.
Mr. Cerati, the exhibits I mentioned that you'll be discussing, A1 through A3, were they prepared by you or under your supervision?
Yes, they have been, yes.
Thank you.
So again, thank you for having us here this evening, and Mr. Moore has already introduced the application, the location. I have the Exhibit A1 here, which is our overall cover sheet. Just wanted to point out two things on it. Basically just that the, and now we're going to find out. There we go. Just that the, no, batteries just went. Great timing.
Technology is not being kind to us tonight.
And on that note, sir, if you could you move that microphone just closer to you, right in front of you, just so when we're recording at home, people also get the full experience.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Let me bring the board closer to me so they can point.
You need some help.
This is my portrait field. I think I can stand at the mic, not block the view too much, and try to do what I'm going to do. So I just wanted to point out here on the cover sheet, just this is the aerial exhibit on the left. That's the aerial location of depicting the site. The site located in the PROD zone, the Plan Research Office Development Zone. That's really it for this exhibit. Exhibit A2 is just our overall site plan. And for orientation purposes, Passaic Avenue along the northern part of the site, River Road at the very northern part of the site, Morris Avenue, kind of the northeasterly corner. We do have frontage on the side roads of Lincoln Avenue, Madison Avenue, and a little piece of frontage of Evergreen at the rear of the campus. The campus obviously has multiple buildings, and this application involves two of them. They are known as Building S11, which I'm pointing to on the right in gray, depicted in gray, and Building S12 on the left. This application is for this connecting bridge between those two buildings. What we have proposed in terms of the site improvements is a reworking of some of the landscaped areas in and around the buildings. Particularly, this project addresses some drainage conditions at the northern side of Building S11. We're reworking the grading a bit between the building and the sidewalk. We're also renovating the sidewalk spaces. The landscape architect will describe those improvements a bit more in his testimony. The bridge then is, again, spanning between those, I'll call it top left corner of S11 and top right corner of S12. That goes across the roadway. And then in the front of S12, the S12 building on the left, we're also renovating the sidewalks, reconfiguring a staircase that comes up from the parking areas to the building, to the existing building entrance. We have some utility connections from the addition, primarily roof drainage. We do have a major utility corridor that comes in the building there. There's mechanical space below the bridge that will be constructed in that location. And then we also have some renovations and landscaping to the sidewalks. They are located on the south side, or the bottom, as you look at the drawing of Building S11. Again, just some reworking of the sidewalks at the rear. There is a small canopy that will be added to the building there. With all the sidewalk work, we will be addressing some of the ADA ramps, redoing them, and again, obviously, they would be code conformant, and we would address the grades and so forth required for those accessibility requirements. As Mr. Moore identified, you know, we are, in terms of zoning compliance, let me flip the page here. Let me go to A3. This is a color rendering, a little bit closer up, and this would be Exhibit A3. Again, just a picture of those improvements. The lawn area, again, north of Building S11 and the sidewalk. The bridge is the gray structure spanning between the two buildings. New sidewalks that I mentioned north of S12. New sidewalks and landscaping at the rear of Building S11. We have a conforming application in terms of use, accessory use, lot size, the lot coverage, building coverage, the FAR, height. Mr. Moore introduced the mechanical equipment. We do have a fan, and I think the architects will describe where that is and how that looks, but obviously the parapet, as was described, is 42 inches tall, as is the fan, so not in view. In terms of parking demand, the actual square footage of the project is 8,439 square feet, if I have that number right.
You do.
Okay. And when we divide that by the parking requirement, it requires 25 new parking spaces for this bridge space, even though there'll be one new employee. With the demolition that has occurred, and I'll point it out, if everyone's maybe not familiar with it, the demolition of Building S2, which is actually identified on Exhibit A2. This building here along Morris Ave has been demolished. There was parking requirement associated with that building of 13 spaces. So the reduction of the parking requirement of 13 spaces by the demolition of that building, the 25 spaces required here, leaves us with a net requirement of 12 additional spaces. Currently, the campus has 3,650 spaces, including 500 banked spaces. So we have plenty of parking to address the additional required 12 spaces. So that is the sort of parking situation. And again, just to how that was calculated, I think our site plans identified a different square footage. We did not include the mechanical space, so the 12 spaces conservatively takes all of that building space into account. And Mr. Moore, unless you have questions for
I
me?
have a couple
Yep.
more questions. They
Okay.
sort of go to some of the comments in the Collier's report.
Sure.
Is it correct that there are no wetlands, environmental conditions, or hazardous materials within the project limits?
Correct, that's correct.
And then all of the proposed work for the workplace bridge, including the laydown areas, landscaping, lighting, demolition, and the proposed canopy to be connected to the stormwater drainage system, are they also within the limit of disturbance?
Yes, and let me just mention that limited disturbance. Thank you for reminding me. Our overall limited disturbance with this project has been held under an acre. There is some questions about, some couple of coordination things between landscape and civil, but I will present to you testimony tonight that this project will not disturb more than an acre, and any refinement that needs to be done, coordination to demonstrate that, we'll certainly work with your professionals and make sure that they're comfortable that we're under an acre. It's important because we don't trigger major stormwater development and stormwater management requirements, and we're trying to not do that.
And as a condition of any approval the board saw fit to grant, we'll amend the plans to show the proposed roof leader tying into the existing inlet?
Yes, we'll, within the limited disturbance,
You're
yes.
right. And then the grading will not extend to the existing sidewalk?
Correct, it won't extend beyond the side, goes right to the limit of the existing sidewalks, and that is in the case north of the building S11. That's where I think that question was asked. So yes, our grading extends right to the existing sidewalk and stops.
And then we'll also depict the proposed canopy to be connected to the storm drainage system on the plans?
Yes.
And then there was a question about the drainage pipe under the doghouse manhole. Do you recall that? Can you
Yes.
respond to that?
So let me point that out on the site plan. So there is an existing,
And that's A3 you're referring to.
yep, I'm referring to sheet A3. There's an existing stormwater drainage pipe in the roadway to the north of S12. There's a manhole beyond, but there's no, the record drawings show that basically that line goes to the building. We don't have it ascertained exactly where the location is. We know approximately how deep. We need to do test pit in the field to confirm its location, its inverts, and exactly where that tie in. We've noted that on the plans, but there's no available, no easy way to get that information. We'll do that as a test pit investigation. That'll be the point of tie-in for some of that roof drainage.
And can you just discuss the discrepancy between the limit of disturbance on the HDR hardscape plan and your engineering plan?
I think there are areas of landscape improvement, and that limit is a little bit different than the limit of disturbance where we're doing actual grading. There's some planting. I think it's lawn. I think there's a piece of lawn here. Really, it's just getting reestablished lawn. So, either way, like I said, I'm representing there will not be land disturbance. There may be some planting or seeding extending outside that, but there won't be a grading or activity beyond the 1 acre. So we'll coordinate that and make sure that's your professionals are okay with that.
And then am I correct in noting that we don't have an as-built survey that provides more accurate locations of the utilities?
Particularly that, yes, we've actually done a lot of exhaustive investigation here already. We have a little bit more, as I described, during construction, particularly for the drainage tie-in to conduct, but we've taken the best available information and done some invasive test pitting here already. We'll continue that because the record information is not easily ascertained as the exact location of some of these utilities.
Great. And just for the record, we agree to obtain all necessary approvals from the Soil Conservation District, correct?
Correct. Yep.
And then, just for the record, the applicant will comply with comments 13 through 21 of the Collier's review letter for this matter.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. And then the city engineer had requested that the applicant provide an updated stormwater management report. But since this is not a major project, the applicant will provide such a report when we come in before the board with the project that's a major project. And similarly, the stormwater management on the site will be updated when we come in before the board with the project that's a major project, but that's not this. Okay, Mr. Cerati is available for any questions that the board or its professionals have.
Any members of the board with questions? Mr. Solano? It would just be a good time sorry, Rick, go ahead.
I have a question. Thank you, Mr. Cerati, for the testimony. It's very illustrative. Will HDR or somebody else be talking about landscaping at all today? Or is
Yes.
that all postponed to a later date?
No, the landscaping for this project.
Right.
There's landscaping
Understood. No,
associated.
for this project.
Yeah, for this project, that'll be our next witness.
Fine, I'll hold my question.
And then, Mr. Chairman, if I may, just the fire chief on, it looks like May 8th, had pointed out that there was a clearance issue regarding vertical clearance of, had that been
Actually,
reviewed?
I can address that, and our architect will confirm,
okay, thank
but I can answer right now. Question delayed is question denied, right? It's actually 13 feet 6 inches as required by code. Bristol Myers requested that the sign say 13 feet 4 inches because that's the clearance of an existing loading dock that's down the way, and they wanted trucks to know in advance that the clearance was not sufficient at the loading dock, but it's actually 13 feet 6 inches code compliant under the bridge.
And reflected in plans as such?
Yeah, in the actual plans, it's 13.6.
Any other board members have questions of this witness? And before you leave, Mr. Cerati, maybe would this be a good time to talk a little bit about, Mr. Moore addressed an awful lot of the questions you had in your memorandum. It might be a good time to review any other questions that you might have, Mr. Cerati.
Absolutely. They have addressed much of the comments we've provided.
Yeah.
So the only thing I'm going to point out to the board, the difference in area is about a little bit over 600 square feet for it to be over or close to 1 acre.
Right.
So hence, they have agreed to provide revised plans. So we would like to have a review of that prior to, as a subject of approval. Yeah,
Okay.
that's our recommendation
Okay.
for that. Yeah.
And then the questions that Mr. Moore answered on your memorandum, were they to your satisfaction?
Yes, they were.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
All right. If Joe's, any questions, really want to wait until they address your memo, till they get to the planner or do you have any questions?
2 or 3 that can be addressed here.
Okay, great.
One is the confirmation that all wall-mounted lights in the bollards comply with the height limitations in the code.
You know what? We have a lighting engineer here tonight, Joe, who can answer all those.
Yeah, there you go.
Carry over from the last hearing, there's no new signage for this?
I'm sorry, Joe.
No new signage.
Joe, can you face, no new signs? Can you face the mic when you?
No new signage,
No new signage, thank you.
Correct.
Okay. All right, anything else, Joe?
nothing
All
else.
right, okay.
Mr. Cortez?
I don't see any members of the audience here, so behind that, is anybody hiding back there? Okay,
Everybody's with us.
okay, that's what I figured. Glad I'm not paying this bill.
Mr. Cortez, can you just give your name for the record?
Yes, Anthony Cortese. I'm a senior landscape architect and associate with HDR, Architecture and Engineering. And
And if you could just give your education.
Could you spell your name, Mr. Corsi?
yes, last name spelled Cortese.
Okay, thank you. And it was Anthony, you said?
Yes, that's correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about your qualifications?
Yes, I got my Bachelor of Science in Environmental Planning and Design, Landscape Architecture at Rutgers University in 2005. I've got 18 years of experience working on projects in higher ed, healthcare, science and technology, and government sector projects.
And you're a licensed landscape architect in the state of New Jersey?
That's correct, since 2011.
And of course, his license is in good standing.
Yes.
It is in good standing, yes.
Any questions from members of the board for Mr. Cortese? All right, please proceed.
All right, well,
Oh, just before you proceed, Anthony, just for the record, Exhibits A4 and A5 were prepared by you or under your supervision?
that is correct.
Thank you.
And Mr. Moore, you've pre-marked all the exhibits.
Yes, I have.
I've noticed that they're all have those little stickers there, so
Yes.
you've done a good job. Thanks.
Thank you. You're welcome.
So A4 is, I apologize if I'm blocking any view. A4 is an overall rendering with buildings S12, S11 shown and the development on the north side, and the minor improvements on the south side of building S11. And this is an enlarged plan showing that same development, just with an enlargement at S11 on the south end. So the overall hardscape really just addresses the development to accommodate the construction of the bridge.
I'm
So as
sorry,
Mr.
can you speak a little closer to the mic and speak up, please?
Yes, yes. So as Mr. Cerati stated earlier, the development on the north side of S12 addresses the entry requirements for the bridge connection. There's a small cafeteria seating area on the upper terrace. The stairs navigate about an 8-foot grade change down to the crosswalk. And the sidewalk is existing, and that slopes all the way down to the same elevation. This sidewalk is not being touched, so there is a sloping landscape area between the steps, the new wall at the steps, and the existing sidewalk. Off of the terraced areas, there are small seating areas associated with each terrace platform just to provide some amenity space for the employees. And landscape trees in between to provide greenery. Some minor sidewalk improvements over at the S11 entry with a couple of 4 benches total and minor sidewalk improvements and additional tree plantings. On the south side of S11, there's really just hardscape improvements in order to address some pedestrian circulation for the site. That's really the majority of it, and in all, we're putting in 23 trees, 40 shrubs, 1,400 ornamental grasses, and 1,300 ground covers. So for the minor development of the bridge, there's a nice amount of landscaping in order to beautify the campus.
So, Mr. Cortese, some of us had the privilege of taking a tour a couple of weeks ago of the campus, and in front of S11, right behind your right shoulder there, we were told that there was a bit of a drainage problem as it related to S11, and that there was landscape improvements were going to be directed towards that to deal with that. Is that part of what you're doing here?
Yes, that is correct. That is, those are the drainage improvements Mr. Cerati mentioned earlier in his testimony. And you can see some of the storm drains in gray halftone on the plans addressing that.
And there were some trees removed there and then some added, is that right?
That's correct, yes. In total, there were 17 trees removed. Most were 6-inch caliber or less. There were 2 16-inch trees removed. We are putting 23 trees back in total.
Any other members of the board have questions of Mr. Cortese? Yeah, Jay?
I'd like to refer to the memorandum submitted by the Environmental Commission. They raised a couple of issues, one in particular relating to utilizing native species. Did you have an opportunity to see that memo, and can you
I did, yes,
address
in
that,
accordance,
please?
in accordance with the May 16th, 2023
Yes, May
2023 memo.
16th is the date of
Yes, it was specifically about the use of liriape, and we will be substituting that for a native species to the board's satisfaction.
Great. She also referenced including bioswales, rain gardens, and other infrastructure to maintain stormwater as opposed to relying exclusively on storm sewer system. Did you have a chance to think about that one or address that?
That was actually more engineering, and then because this is not a major project, we will not be providing those improvements at this time. As I said, when we come in for a major project, which would be impervious surface of an acre or more, then we would provide those types of drainage improvements.
Thank you.
I guess
Although to Mr. Brinkerhoff's and the Environmental Commission's point, you also could do them even though you aren't required. So we ask anytime there's a project where you're being considered, where there may be those opportunities to add those kinds of improvements, perhaps not here, but They're always welcome, other than traditional means.
That is understood. Due to the stormwater strategy being pursued, it's not really appropriate at this application, but I completely understood. And then I guess I should also mention, underneath the bridge, since it's completely shaded, we're using 1 to 3 inch river rock, and we're also protecting the ridge columns with large bollards, large boulders, in order to
That's probably a good idea.
create a natural aesthetic there. Yep. I think I've covered everything. Like I said, it's pretty minimal in terms of
Now,
landscape.
usually we would ask for if anyone in the audience has a question for this particular witness. I noticed a gentleman came in. Are you a member of the neighborhood, member of the public, or are you? Yep. So this gentleman just testified here with regard to landscape architecture. The format that we have is that if you have questions of this witness in particular, you can ask those. When all the testimony is done, and you've heard it all, you'll have an opportunity to come up and address, in general, any comments you have on the application. Does that work for you? Okay, all right, okay, great, thanks. All right. You gonna call your next witness, Mr. Moore?
Yes. I'd like to call Mr. Matthew Klawinski, our project architect.
Good evening.
Could you spell your name for us?
Yeah, my name is Matthew Klawinski. It's Kliwinski.
Okay, Mr. Kowinski, can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure, I graduated with a Bachelor of Architecture degree from Temple University. I've been practicing architecture for approximately 11 years, working in higher education, healthcare, commercial, technology. I've been registered architect with the state of New Jersey since 2016.
Okay.
And your license is in good standing.
Yes.
Thank you. And Exhibits A6,
Just any members of the board have any questions for Mr. Kowinski as far as his qualifications
If you
are
would just mind
concerned?
lifting the microphone up just so we
Yep.
perfect, thank you.
All right. He's a little bit taller than you. So, okay.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead.
and before you start, Mr. Klawinski, were Exhibits A6 through A8 prepared either by you or under your supervision?
Yes.
Thank you. You can proceed.
Okay, as stated previously, the Workplace Bridge is an addition to the existing S12 building. Provides a workplace lounge with tables and chairs and a cafe for employees of the campus, as well as a connection between the S11 and S12 buildings. The Workplace Bridge is proposed to be 2 stories in height, 8,439 square feet of overall floor area. The design of the facility is compliant with the requirements for a building addition and alterations to existing building elements, according to NJAC 5236 Rehabilitation Subcode. In Exhibit 6 here, we have the mechanical level floor plan. The mechanical level of the bridge is approximately 6 foot 4 inches below the existing S12 ground level. In this plan, the existing S12 facility is on the left-hand side. The existing S11 building is on the right-hand side. The mechanical level includes a 868 square foot mechanical and electrical room, which houses all of the mechanical and electrical equipment for the bridge functions, aside from the small rooftop exhaust fan that we've discussed before, 42-inch high fan on the roof with a 42-inch high parapet for
Did you say
screening.
that was below grade or at grade? The mechanical room?
The mechanical floor is both. It is below the level of the S12 building, but it is at grade at the roadway.
I got you,
The
yeah.
site is a sloped site. So there is an entrance at grade into the mechanical room from below the bridge. Also at the mechanical level, we have an unoccupied crawl space area, approximately 1,100 square feet. Also indicated in this plan is the entry vestibule for the Workplace Bridge, which is at the ground level of the S12 building, as well as the lobby associated with it, with tables and chairs for the workplace, or for the work lounge function.
Are those exhibits marked?
Yes, they
All
are.
right, okay.
They are. It's
They're up there, okay,
up
good.
above. The next exhibit is the bridge level floor plan. The main bridge level is 6,448 square feet. That square footage includes both the upper bridge as well as the calculation of the square footage of the lobby below. The overall dimensions of the bridge are 208 feet in the east-west direction, 48 feet in the north-south direction at its widest point. The upper bridge area is accessed by a stair and ADA accessible ramp from both the bridge lobby as well as the S11 connector. The main bridge level includes a coffee shop and grab-and-go area in the center of the bridge with cafe seating for approximately 80 people.
I'm sorry, how many?
Seating for approximately 80 people.
80.
Yes. The building exterior envelope is constructed of 4 primary building materials. We have at the base of the building, around the mechanical level, is a brick cavity wall with brick matching the existing brick on the S12 facility, which is also very similar to the S11 building as well. We have aluminum glass curtain wall around the upper bridge area, with the glass matching the existing glazing at the S12 facility as well. Above and below the curtain wall, we have aluminum fascias, which are a platinum-colored aluminum metal to match other adjacent metal panels around the campus. And we have at the S11 side of the building a terracotta rain screen as a feature wall at the S11 side of the building. The overall building height from grade at the S11 side is 33 feet, and the overall height from grade at the S12 side is 25 feet. We do have at the bridge over the roadway a minimum of 13'6" clear at the roadway in compliance with the International Fire Code. As noted earlier, we have the signage below the bridge indicating 13'4" based on the adjacency to the existing S11 loading dock.
Just one final point, Mr. Klawinski, and that is in the construction official's memorandum, he had made a series of requests, most of which we don't view as problematic and we would accept them, but the one exception was he said bring both S11 and S12 to current code as well as the workspace bridge, and I believe you'd made some reference to what's actually the applicable standard, and if you could just repeat that for the board.
Yes, our workplace bridge is designed in compliance with the requirements for an addition and alteration according to the rehabilitation subcode.
And that is what we would comply with. That concludes Mr. Klawinski's direct testimony. He's available to answer any questions the board or the public have.
Any members of the board have questions for Mr. Kulinski? Yes, Matthew?
Yes. Are you employing any green improvements or LEED-related items with this design?
The project is not getting LEED accredited, but as always, we design all of our work based on current standards for a green building, but it is not going for certification currently.
Okay. And with regards to the construction official's comments, I would note, and maybe perhaps not in this application, but in a lot of applications, people do come before the board with their ideas about what they want to do, but then aren't necessarily buildable, or that there are a number of construction and code-related issues that have to be addressed. Could you just repeat what you were saying about the fact that the construction official has been specific about pointing out things that he sees are either missing or that need to be addressed in his memo dated 5/11/23, and where, based on these requests, you are or are not, what you are or are not addressing?
Let me take the initial shot at that, and Mr. Klawinski can jump in and stop me if I go astray. We would agree with all the comments in his code, except he says plans must comply with all current building codes for the existing building and the new addition. And we're doing that, but I just wanted to clarify, Mr. Klawinski wanted to clarify the actual code requirements that we need to comply with.
Sure. I'll clarify that the code requirements that the bridge is required to meet does not require us to bring the existing S11 and S12 buildings up to code, other than the specific areas that we
Right,
are
I
working on
understand.
the addition
So
and
basically, that in
alteration.
construction of the bridge, you'll meet it, but you're not going to go back and retro ensure that existing structures are meeting.
That's correct.
Correct.
Except for the places that we are impacting on.
Okay, thank you.
in the
I
work
thought
area.
that was a little
odd, the way it was stated by the
Yeah.
construction official.
Well, and I can share with the board, there have been applications that come before us where they take, there was a prior use and somebody wants to come in and do a new use and they're retrofitting something and they have ideas, only later to find out when they apply for construction permits that there are enormous costs related to fire and other things that hadn't
Yeah.
existed, or because the use change increases those things in a way that it becomes financially difficult. This board isn't necessarily concerned with those things, but our construction official who's been in the job for a year does take very seriously the comments to ensure that applicants don't get to the stage where a board has approved something and then they're telling us at the counter, I know, but I'm allowed to do all this. Yes, according to the approval of the board, but you still have to meet construction standards, so, thank you.
So in effect, by not doing what he's requested, it complies.
That's correct.
Yes. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kalinsky.
Thank you.
Oh,
Does
sorry.
the member of the public have any
Yes, I'm going to ask
questions?
if any of our consultants here, Dipta or Joe, have any comments of this witness of the architect? No?
No, I don't.
Any member of the public have a question for this witness? Yes, no? No, okay, all right. Call your next witness, Mr. Moore.
Okay, I'd like to call Ms. Karen Murphy. Ms. Murphy, can you give your name for the record?
Sure, Karen Murphy, M-U-R-P-H-Y.
Mr. Chairman, I know you like to do the voir dire,
Well,
so...
no, it's just, can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. So I've been a professional lighting designer for the past 34 years. I'm lighting certified in the state, actually in all states in the U.S. I have been since 2004. I'm a professional, International Association of Lighting Designers professional since 2001. I have a bachelor's of science degree from Penn State University in architectural engineering with a specialty in lighting and electrical systems.
Have you been before the
So-
board before?
Not this board.
Okay.
So I have been certified as a professional in the state of New Jersey and in the state of Pennsylvania.
Great, thanks.
This is my first time before this board.
And your particular profession doesn't require a license necessarily, does it? Or
No,
just your PE?
it's a lighting certification.
Yeah,
So
okay,
yes, yeah, it's not a PE.
Okay, so we don't have to worry about if it's in,
No.
But the LC is in good standing. That also has to be recertified into
No, I-
continuing education.
I
So yes,
understand.
that is in good
I'm
standing.
not trying to make light of it, I just wanted to be sure that if you're a PE, that we knew that.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay, yeah, okay. No pun intended. Sorry. I shouldn't have done that.
And Ms. Murphy, just for the record, before you start, was Exhibit A9 either prepared by you or under your supervision?
It was.
Thank you.
Okay, so the plan before you tonight is the same plan that was in your package. It's just been kind of colorized to help you read all the numbers and see what's hardscape, what's where the building is and where the hardscaping is. To summarize the lighting for this building, we are putting in 11 new bollards, 8 handrail lights, 1 surface-mounted downlight on the underside of the new entry canopy, and a regressed linear tape light that's on the underside of the bridge. And I know that was one of the questions in one of the memos, is it on the side of the bridge or is it on the underside? And it is regressed in the underside of the bridge. We even provided a detail in the bottom corner so that you can see that the light is tucked up in a regress, an architectural regress pocket on the underside of the bridge so that it's not visible. The surface brightness of the fixture itself is not visible to anyone unless you're underneath the bridge looking up at it. We've also added photos of each fixture in our fixture schedule because I know a lot of times you see the manufacturer catalog number and that doesn't mean anything to anyone but someone like myself. So we like to add the pictures so that the members of the board can kind of visualize what it is that they're getting on the site. The light plan shows all the photometrics, so this is the foot candle level. This is the foot candle levels with the new fixtures and with the existing fixtures that are going to remain. So this is not just the new fixtures, ignoring all the other things so that the overall light level's higher. This is what you will get at the completion of the project. And I think that was also in one of the memos that the question was asked. Just as a little history, there are 10 bollards, and the existing canopy light that had, lights in it that are going to be demolished and replaced with what we're showing today. There are no new poles scheduled for the site, so there's going to be no fixtures on any poles that are part of this project. And all the fixtures that we're putting in have a 3,000 Kelvin color temperature. They will be on dusk to dawn. This is a 24/7 facility, and there are people, and I have done surveys of the site and been out there at 11 o'clock, midnight at night, and there are people in and out of this facility and taking breaks outside the facility. So it is important that these lights remain on dusk to dawn for the safety of the workers.
And this lighting proposal conforms with the section 35-14.1M of the Summit Development Regulations governing lighting?
It does. It's fully compliant.
That completes Ms. Murphy's direct testimony. She's obviously here to answer any questions the board, its professionals, or the public may have.
So this bridge has a real opportunity to be very cool and be lit in very, not cool versus warm lit, but lit in a very interesting way. So we've seen a lot of bridges in around the metro area lit in interesting ways. Can you paint us a picture of what this looks like at night with the lighting underneath? And
Sure.
Just kind of what it would look like for us to see?
Sure, and I'm going to try to talk into the mic and point at the same time. But that linear fixture on the underside of the bridge outline, so it provides the outline. The point of the bridge is going to be highlighted, and then the backside of the bridge, so that you you see the structure as you go under. But the point is really not to light up. It's not a bridge that we want lit up like you'd light up the Tappan Zee Bridge, right? Like, that's not what we're trying to do.
Yep.
So we're just kind of accenting where the bridge is. All of the lighting is full cutoff, meaning that it's all directed down, nothing's directed up. That's one of the reasons why we use the handrail lighting for the steps, right? We wanted to keep the light waist level or lower. We have bollards and handrail lights. So the bollards are between the handrails to light the space between. And then as you get up to the entry, we have the bollards. And then the surface-mounted downlight is a full downlight that's in the canopy, again, to keep the light going down. We really don't want to create any uplight. So we're trying as much as possible to minimize sky glow. We're using the 3,000 Kelvin color temperature, keeping everything full cutoff, aimed down at the ground. The other thing that we're doing, and the architect didn't mention it, but this facility will be used at night by the employees, and there's a lot of glazing on it.
Yep.
We have automatic shades in the building so that they will go down at night, so that the light from the inside the building, even though it's in use and those lights are going to be on, they are on aux sensors, so after hours they will only turn on when someone enters the space. But still, it's a glazed building, and those shades will automatically go down at night.
Okay, interesting. Thanks for painting that picture. It's very helpful.
Sure.
Anyone on the board have questions for this witness?
I guess just generally, do you guys do photo simulations at all to kind of just show what the finished product would look like?
We
Other than
could.
the plans?
Yeah, we have not for this, again, because it's pretty straightforward,
Yeah. It would be helpful for me, at least, in other projects I've worked on, to have like a photo sim that just shows what the finalized product looks like, as opposed to just a straight architectural drawing.
If that's something you could do, it'd be interesting to see. I don't know if the client wants to put the bill for that, but I think it'd be interesting to see. I was trying to imagine it, and the reason I asked the question to paint me a picture was I was trying to imagine what you're saying, thinking about the glazing without the shades. I didn't think about the
Right.
shades. And I kind of like the Tappan Zee Bridge. It's kind of cool.
It's a beautiful
I wasn't
bridge.
sure
We're trying to
Yeah.
be sensitive
I
to our
wasn't sure
neighbors,
where my
though.
heart was going, keep the light out of the neighbors or to see some kind of a very cool bridge.
Well, if you
standing
want to,
between the
and
buildings.
we have really cool lighting in here, so if
Yeah.
you want, we can let the shades go up,
Can turn it
but
up a little Anyway, I think
that can be your,
think
that can be
that's-
your call.
that's the right, I think they've made the right decisions, basically, for the neighbors, but I don't know if a drawing could be done that, would be something that wouldn't be too expensive or too difficult to
I
do.
mean, it's something we could do, but it would be a condition of approval, and I don't know if you granted an approval, I don't know if that would be
We will certainly keep it in
worthwhile.
mind for the next time
But
we
we'll
come
know
before
if
this board for the
time you
next
come back,
project.
That's what you'd expect. Oh,
Sorry.
go ahead.
I said
Karen.
we can certainly keep that in mind for the next time we come before the board. Like I said, all of these fixtures are bollard, so any light that we would put in a rendering would be down. You wouldn't be lighting up this building at all. So the rendering would look pretty dark, honestly, right? Yeah,
And maybe
if
you
have
just
a rendering.
clarify the 3,000 Kelvin for the uneducated and lighting temperature.
Oh.
What does that mean? Is it
Oh,
is
sure.
it
So-
brighter or?
No, it's warmer. So
warmer.
the Kelvin color temperature has to do, when you look at a light, does it look blue and cool? That would be a very high color temperature. Does it look warm, more like incandescent and halogen? That would be a warm color temperature. That's the lower number.
Got it, and this would be a warmer.
And this is the lower. This is
For
the
the evening.
3,000,
And
yeah.
so the scale, just to give us a sense of cool to warm, is,
So 2,700 is typically the warmest of LED technology. You can get all the way up to 65,000 or 6,500, 6,500 Kelvin
And-
to get the bluer.
if I recall, when one of the, might have been 2 years ago, when, and it might have been before Bristol Myers, but I'm not sure, there was quite a discussion about the 3,000, and we went back and forth over that, and I think that's the number we landed on going back a couple of years, as I recall.
Yes, and that has been a discussion of many, many, many boards in the International Dark Sky Association. The warmer color temperature is certainly better for the night sky environment.
Yeah.
The cooler color temperature, the bluer light, a lot of times is preferred for safety reasons and security reasons. Your peripheral vision is better with the blue-green light than it is with the warmer light. And, you know, maybe I'm getting completely off course. I
No,
don't mean to
no.
give a lighting dissertation.
that's-
But,
we're
but
all
so,
very interested.
so that's why there's a lot of struggle with it, like what is the right color temperature? And I have to say that when Bristol Myers Squibb came to me and asked me to update the lighting or look at the lighting for the site, they said, do the right thing, do what's right. I know we've had this issue in the past. We want your professional recommendation. We want you to do what's right. And so what I'm that there are parking lots where they have really, really low light levels right now.
Well, we are going a little afield for this
Yeah, okay.
application.
So we'll get into that. So my recommendation is that the internal campus, which is what you're seeing here, use that warmer color temperature.
And then, as we said before, we'll be back with lighting
Yes.
and
Right.
landscaping here in the
And
next time.
you'll get to hear Ms. Murphy again.
All right,
She'll be our main witness that evening.
We can do a little seminar afterwards. Any questions from the audience with regard to this witness?
So the notice that came out that said that lighting wouldn't be discussed tonight was talking about different lighting, is that right?
Yes.
The campus as a whole,
Okay, thank
yes.
Yeah, it's campus-wide lighting, yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I think Member Hillebrand's comment is very good. I think considering the neighborly relations, it probably would be a very good idea moving forward to actually be able to allow people to see it. So the distance between expectation and reality is as close together as possible, so there isn't confusion about what people were promised and then what was delivered. So
Right.
I think that's a good point. I feel remiss as an expert not to ask you how to get your spouse to turn the lights off in the room when they're done using it. I will save that for another.
Or your kids.
It's your kids, not your spouse.
Kids, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Okay,
Or your
very good.
grandkids. Rick, yes. Mhm.
Great presentation. Thank you, Ms. Murphy. I'm just using the graphic scale on your drawing CS 100 to try to figure out how far the bridge is from the nearest property line to the south, and it looks to be about 800 feet or so, just over.
You know what? We'll call Mr. Cerati back. He'll be able
Okay,
to
but it's a
answer that with
lighting
precision.
question. In that distance, assuming it's around 800 feet, give or take 100 feet, what, if anything, with lighting underside rather than on the facade, will you see from the adjacent property line, if anything?
So you're not, all the lighting, you will not see any of the lighting that we've proposed in this facility.
That's-
Again, we have a big grade, right? Like it's
Yeah.
sloping. We kind of testified that it's sloping up this way as you go down. So this is the low point of the site. So the higher point is all above it, and the lighting is all, 42 inches, I think, was the height of the bollard. 40-some inches for the bollard, and then on the underside, it's regressed in there, regressed in the underside of the canopy. So there's no visible bright lens that's showing.
That was in implied in what you said. I just wanted to hear you say specifically for the record. Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone, other members of the board have a question for Ms. Murphy? How about Dipty or Joe?
I have a question. Regarding the conduits and the wiring for the lighting, is that depicted on any plans right now, or is that
Oh,
going to
sure,
be?
that's in the
Yeah.
construction
That is
set.
on
That'll be part of the permit
Okay,
set.
that-
Yep.
And as we discussed before, that's part of the limit of disturbance also?
Yes.
Correct, okay, thank you. Yep.
Joe, any questions?
No, we had reviewed the plans, we were satisfied with these.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay. Mr. Moore? Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Ms.
I
Murphy.
have one final witness, Mr. Richard Marr.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, Chairman Anderson, members of the public, thank you for entertaining this application. First of all, we appreciate the opportunity to present this to you, and I'm truly grateful for the team that we have of professionals we've worked with as partners for a very long time at BMS.
Can you just give your
I-
position with BMS?
I'm sorry. I'm the Director of Global Capital Project Engineering. I've been with BMS for more than 3 decades. Before the acquisition of Celgene, and I came to this site for the opportunity to be able to do some spectacular things. Forgive me. We're building this bridge to create a linkage between S11 and S12, and to do what our CEO says, create an energizing workplace. So creating a collaborative space. We could have just built a passageway bridge, but we wanted to make something that draws people together for collaboration, and that's why it has functionally a Starbucks or a coffee and grab and go on it. It's a place to bring people together and create that energizing workplace. That's our real goal in this, and I think that our AE team has really seen the BMS vision for that and been able to bring it to the drawings and plans. That's what you have before you today for approvals.
Thank you, Mr. Marr. And then I'd just like to give a brief, and then Mr. Marr can affirm what I say. As you know, in addition to the Workspace Bridge, the other request tonight was for an extension of the general development plan approval for a period of 2 years. Because right now, as Mr. Marr can attest, Bristol Myers has done a lot with the existing general development plan, but they've beautified the site, made it more campus-like, increased the enhanced the Morris Avenue viewshed. But they just took over Celgene in 2019, and in a major multinational corporation's planning, that's a very short period of time, and they still don't know what the final program. Top-level management has not made up their mind what the ultimate program will be for the site. I mean, clearly we're using the site, we're investing a lot in the site, but we need the 2 years to figure out exactly what we're going to do, and then we'll come back to you with an amended general development plan, as Celgene amended theirs about. Well, they amended it 5 times, and it would go into detail, but we just need that 2-year breathing space to figure out what we're going to be doing.
Any question, Mr. Moore, have you, anything else you'd like to mention?
Everything that Councilor Moore represented relative to our desire to extend the GDP is completely accurate. The only time I came before the board was for the request to take down S2, and we had said at the time it was a real no architectural value to us moving forward. It's down. I believe anybody that's driven by Morris Avenue lately with the image that's presented, we were trying to transform the campus to make it look more like a collegiate environment versus some of the legacy, lack of a better term, factory that it used to look like. That's not just for our employees, that's also for the general public and the image of the company in Summit. And I think we're doing a good job at that. And as I said then, anything we plan on doing with the general development plan, we clearly will be coming back to the board for approvals at that point in time. So that's
Mr. Moore, thank you for the tour that we had. Vice Chairman Zucker and Mr. Brinkhoff and I toured the site. We would like to add others to our tour, but we can only have 3 members of this board together at any one time, other than being here. But I can say for the other board members, my background is an architect and an investor in commercial buildings, and having been involved with corporate business campuses and other kinds of things. The quality of the work that's done on this site is outstanding. It really is great, and I was hoping that I could move in, you know, and just stay there. But no, seriously, the work has been done. You know, we're going to miss that building that you knocked down on the corner, that brutalist building, but we'll get over that. But everything is done at a high level, and you can see it, the investment there, and the quality is there. So I want to really commend you for doing that. And we look forward to seeing the rest of it, you know, at the sort of the same level. And we certainly expect that would be the case.
Clearly,
I don't know if John or...
I'd invite anybody from the board to your limitation of 3. If you want to take tours and come along and see what we're doing, we'd be happy to entertain that.
Yeah, John or Jay, would you like to add anything to that comment?
I would just echo the comment. The tour was very helpful to understand what has been done and what is planned to be done. Again, done at a high level, and furthermore addressed some of the questions that had been raised in the past, particularly as it related to noise on and spilling off the site. We had an opportunity to discuss that and how they have already addressed it and intend to continue addressing it. The relationship with the community, I think, has been addressed. So for me, it was a very helpful trip, and I would second the comments the chairman made.
And I would encourage other members of the board to take up the invitation. It's an interesting site, and I had not visited there, and I've been here 20 years, so it was enlightening.
And I think the sound attenuation that you have done on those, I don't know what you'd call them.
Outside air intakes.
The intakes was just amazing. We had a chance to walk by the ones that had been sound attenuated, then we walked around another side of the building that didn't need to be sound attenuated because it was between 2 existing buildings, and the difference between the unattenuated and the attenuated vent shafts or whatever they are was unbelievable. It was, you know, quite a difference. So we appreciate you doing that. I think it made a big difference. I know the neighbors appreciate it as well. So any other questions from the board member, Mr. Maurer?
The only thing I would say is because you're adding volume, there will be an affordable housing fee.
Yes, we understand.
Okay, very good.
And then, sir, if you remember the audience here, sorry, Joe, before we get to that, any of the questions for both of our professionals, either Dipty or Joe, sorry.
Not a question, but just with respect to the extension, just so, particularly for the newer board members, the municipal land use law provides for an extension of an approval of this type. And the main focus of the board's attention is whether or not there's been a zoning change or master plan change that affects the development potential. And there hasn't been any, so it begs the question then that you can easily make this extension.
Okay. Mr. Warner, we talked about that a little bit earlier.
Yeah, to dovetail off of what Joe's saying, because I was given the opportunity, and we attorneys always speak at least enough, if not too much. The 45.4 of the MLUL has an interesting standard for modification of general development plan timing. This was only a 5-year general development plan, which is relatively modest timeframe-wise for the board's edification. It could be at least 20 years. And the request for the 2 years additional, the standard is whether or not, in considering it, is the prevailing economic and market conditions, anticipated and actual needs for non-residential space within the municipality and the region, and the availability and capacity of public facilities to accommodate the proposed development. I'll defer to Joe as to exactly what that means. I think it's a little vague and ambiguous, arguably, but I think certainly it's well within the discretion of the board to grant a 2-year extension for a 5-year GDP for a project of this size, under the MLUL standards. And with respect to the preliminary and final site plan approval, which is the other aspect of the application, the board could vote all at once on both at the appropriate time. It's fully conforming as I understand it. So certainly the board's familiar with deliberating and voting on fully conforming site plans.
And Mr. Warner, with regard to any of the stipulations or any of the items that are mentioned in either Dipty's memo or Joe's memo, is there anything more that we would need to address as a board with regard to those comments?
I don't believe so. I got all the stipulated two conditions from all the various reports and the couple that weren't with respect to major development, i.e. the stormwater management not necessary at this stage of the game. So
So you got
I
everything-
believe the board, from a legal perspective, has all that it
Okay.
needs to in order to render an informed decision.
All right, thank you.
Assuming no
Yeah.
public
I was
comment.
just saying, any member of the public would like to address the board or address this issue?
Okay. So and of course, Mr. Chairman, we'll just need his name and address and me to swear him in.
Yeah, all right.
Thank you.
So
Sorry.
if you could approach the mic and just give us your name and address, and then I'll swear you in afterwards.
Yeah, my name's Gordon Stewart. I live at 54 Evergreen Road, which is immediately adjacent to the site.
And I'm sorry, can you just spell your name, please? I didn't hear.
Stewart. First name Gordon, Gordun.
Gordon Store, okay. And if you'll raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to God or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Sir.
So, first of all, I've lived next to this site for the last 24 years. We've been through a number of pharmaceutical companies over the years, and you know, they've all had their various quirks or whatever. One thing that we haven't had with Bristol Myers Squibb that we have had with some of the other pharmaceuticals is that members of the public have been invited, or members at least of the neighborhood have been invited to, I guess, sort of a, I'm not sure what you would call it, but like for want of a better word, a meet and greet, and where we actually learn about a bit about the site and what's going on there, similar perhaps to how the planning board have done recently. So I was wondering if there was a possibility that Bristol Myers might consider hosting some members of the public in one of these type of meetings that the many pharmaceutical companies over the years have done, because I think it would be useful, particularly for like the good neighborly you know, aspects of things, for that to happen. And I'm not sure who are members of the Bristol Myers as opposed to the various professionals here, but I think that would be useful so we can have a better understanding of what goes on there. Because like, unlike the prior occupants, this is a 24/7 facility, so it's a little bit different than we've had under the prior occupants of the site. There's comings and goings, for instance, like 10 o'clock at night, for some reason, a lot of people seem to leave and they seem to have very noisy cars. I don't know why. I mean, maybe they've modified their exhaust or something. But it seems to get pretty noisy over at my side. On a slightly different note, as people may know, a lot of document shredding occurs with outside vendors that come into the site with mobile shredding trucks, and probably it's not even thought about. They think they're going to a remote part of the parking lot to do their shredding, and last Friday for like 6 hours, pretty much continuously, there was a mobile shredding truck right next to where my house is, shredding away for like 6 hours. I'm sure it wasn't violating any laws. I'm sure it wasn't violating any decibels or anything like that, so there was no violation occurring. However, you know, just in the spirit of good neighborliness, I would have thought that elsewhere on site would probably be a more appropriate place for that to happen, because there's certainly areas of the site that don't abut residential, and that's the kind of thing, you know, that I think could be addressed in a meeting, you know, directly with neighbors in the company, rather than like, you know, people calling up the police and getting told, well, they're not violating the decibel. I mean, you know, that it just seems that this would be a helpful time with the extension of the general development, that perhaps some of that gets addressed, you know, perhaps with the company directly by some of the neighborhoods. I'm not really complaining here. I mean, I just think it's useful to know what goes on there. I know the work that they do, and I know that, like, you know, that why there's vehicles coming and going. It makes sense. There's, you know, stem cell is being brought in and stuff like that, so they can carry out their gene splicing on those cells. So it would be useful to know what's going on there. I think particularly you know, with some of the lighting issues as well, and then also the noisy vehicles. Particularly, you know, even on a Sunday afternoon, there's like a bunch of vehicles parked close to the residences that I would have thought on a Sunday afternoon could be accommodated in one of the parking structures at the site over the other side of the site where there's no residences. But, you know, that's the kind of thing that comes out with a discussion directly with the company rather than, you know, just having some informal way where we can communicate that. And like having a meeting with the company would be helpful.
Okay. Well, Mr. Mauer, does that sound like something that you could accommodate the neighbors at some point?
I think that's under consideration, isn't it, Rich?
I did speak to someone a year and a half ago and they said that was under consideration. And we're a year and a half later and it hasn't happened, so. I can't remember their name. I think it might be Koza.
At this point in time, I can say, Chairman Anderson, when you came, we still had COVID rules and what
Yeah.
to make sure that you had masks or you were vaccinated.
Right,
all
right.
those things. So I can't say whether we can invite members of the public at this point in time. I'm not saying that we will never do that.
Yeah, yeah.
But our public affair, I can invite the board to come on site individually, like with the groups of 3. It wouldn't be me that would be inviting the general public to the campus at this point in time. It would be somebody from our public affairs group that would be hosting other neighbors and things. I'm certainly not saying that we will never do that.
Yeah.
But I'm also not going to commit that I'm going to invite this gentleman. forgive me,
No, I'm not looking for a commitment.
As I made the commitment that I would invite any one of you.
Yeah.
That's good enough with me. I mean,
Alright,
as
good.
long as like people at the company are aware that the public are interested in that. And I did speak to someone at BMS like a year and a half ago that said that that was under consideration. So hopefully it still is.
Okay.
Thank you.
very much for coming tonight. I appreciate your comments. Thank you. And I don't see any other members of the public here, and I don't think the board has any more questions, and we're good from our consultant team, we're good for our attorney, and so may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
And, Mr. Chairman, I'll just
Just to be
assume,
clear, it's on both matters.
that's what
Yes,
I was going to say.
okay,
It's
thank you.
on
2-year
both the extension and the preliminary and final site
Yeah.
plan approval for the work bridge with all the stipulated 2 conditions.
What he just said.
Perfect. Great. All right. Do the roll call vote.
I'll take a
Yes.
second. If you need a second, I'll second.
Okay, good. I wasn't sure who was doing what there.
I think we already have a second then.
I had Ms. McNeil first. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, got it, yeah.
All right.
Okay,
So we got a
perfect.
third instead.
We have a third.
I third.
Third, you have a third.
Okay. Chairman Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Brinkerhoff,
Yes.
Ms. McNeil,
Yes.
Mr. Delory,
Yes.
Councilmember Miniger,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Zucker,
Yes.
Mr. Formicelli,
Yes.
Mr. Bell,
Yes.
Mr. Hillebrand.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. I don't think so. I think we're basically, we do have the minutes to approve as a board. Let's, from the board's perspective, we're not quite ready yet. Kristen, we just need to approve the minutes from the last meeting, that's all. Yeah. Sorry. I'm gonna, maybe we should move that up.
Do you want me to move it up before the, okay.
Future, yeah. Put it right after roll call. All right. So guys, let me get your attention, as soon as these guys move out. We have some meeting minutes that we have to review and approve. It will take about 7 nanoseconds, something like that.
Guys, we're going to do the minutes.
We need to do the minutes to review and approve the minutes.
The minutes as draft.
Thank you very much, folks.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mauer, thank you. All right. So we have minutes from last February 27th meeting. It was a rather short meeting. Anybody have any comments as it relates to the minutes that were from that meeting? Comments, additions, deletions, corrections, et cetera? No, they're very well done, of course. Thank you.
thank you.
Very much to the point.
Okay.
And I guess we'll need a motion to approve.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
And are we going to do a voice vote or just a,
Yes, but I just want to point out who's eligible for the voice vote.
Right, thank you.
So our eligible voters are Mr. Brinkerhoff, Ms. McNeil, Mr. Delory, Councilmember Miniger, Vice Chairman Zucker, Mr. Formicelli, Mr. Stern, who's out, and Mr. Hillebrand. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great.
Dipty and Joe, thank you very much for being here tonight. It's good to see you. It's been a while.
What's next?
Yes, we need to adjourn the meeting. I guess we need a motion to adjourn before I bang the gavel. So we have a motion to adjourn. And a second?
Second.
All right, and this meeting is adjourned. I'll do this again. Okay,
Thank you.
great.